Good evening, one and all. I welcome all the participants to day 10 of virtual internship on IoT project development using industry grade microcontroller. Today, first of all, we'll complete yesterday's protest simulation on analog to digital conversion. So I request Mr. Shubham Omase to complete protest simulation on analog to digital conversion within 5 minutes, and thereafterwards we'll continue with IoT protocol implementation in hardware as well as software.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Yesterday, we were not able to complete the simulation part because of the breakout issue we were having. So later, we removed that breakout point in the from the code, and the simulation was working perfectly. So today, what we will do, we will compile the same code again, and we will simulate the our ADC program. So we'll just go to the code MPLABX ID. This is the same file, yesterday's same file, ADC file. Okay, you can see here. What we will do first, we'll compile this, build this file. Okay, build is successful. After that, we will open Proteus. The yesterday we created this circuit in Proteus. Okay. What we will do now, we will add program file. Okay. We will check the address D peak 18F4520X. Okay, this is the project. So you have to select that project file directory. Okay. This is the file. Okay, just double click, go to this default and production. Select this file. Okay. After that, just click on the run. This is it. After that, the simulation will begin. You can see now the ADC result is being shown on LCD display. What we will do, we will change analog voltage on analog port A0. To do that, we just have to move this terminal on the potentiometer. Okay, you can see that as we move this terminal, the digital data on the LCD also changes with respect to terminal position. Okay. Now what we will do, we will apply maximum possible voltage, which is 5 volt, and we will see the result on the LCD display. So maximal possible will be 100%. Okay, it is 100% now. You can see the result 1023 as it is a 10-bit ADC. This is maximum possible digital data. Next, what we will do, we will apply 0 again and see if it shows the 0 value on the display. It is 0%. It means that this terminal is directly connected to the ground pin. Means the voltage on this pin is 0 volt. The result will be 0 on LCD display. Okay. This is the complete simulation of LCD. Yesterday, some participants were asking the significance of VE pin. Let me tell you that what is this means. This means that this voltage on this pin controls the brightness or the contrast of this character displayed on the LCD display. If you do not connect anything on this pin, LCD will look like this. The empty screen will be displayed. Okay, you must connect 2.2 kilo ohm resistor to the ground and VE pin for the perfect contrast of characters. Okay, so this is from my side. Thank you, sir. I will hand over the session again back to Kakade, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubham. Today I am going to start very important topic of this internship program, that is I2C protocol implementation. And it is really important, especially if you are planning to take up job in embedded design companies, or if you are planning to do job in IoT field, then I2C protocol is really important, because in embedded domain, I2C protocol is one of the most widely used protocol for interfacing many sensors to microcontroller. So I would say, if you thoroughly understand I2C protocol implementation using industry grade microcontroller, it will prepare you for taking job in embedded system to large extent. I would not say 100%, but you will be prepared for taking job in embedded system domain to large extent. So this I2C protocol will implement for FDC 1004 IC. Already I have discussed this FDC 1004 IC. It is 4-channel capacitance to digital converter IC. So it converts capacitance connected on one of the input channel to 24-bit digital value. So 24-bit digital value depends upon capacitance value on the input channel. So this FDC 1004 IC is used in wide variety of applications. So let me recap a few things. Its input range is up to 15 picofarad. Its measurement resolution is really excellent. It is 0.5 femtofarad. We can remove maximum offset capacitance up to 100 picofarad. The sensor itself has some capacitance, and sensor may be connected to FDC 1004 IC using cable. So capacitance of cable and capacitance of sensors without physical quantity under measurement is called offset capacitance. For example, coaxial capacitor I discussed for level measurement of fuel. So this coaxial capacitor without any fuel inside it has capacitance. So that capacitance is called offset capacitance, because offset capacitance usually remains constant. It does not change with quantity under measurement. So offset capacitance is not directly related to quantity under measurement, and in this IC there is provision to remove this offset capacitance according to requirement. 4 input channels are there. At a time we can select any one channel for converting capacitance value to digital value. We can decide number of conversions. So in this IC there are 3 options given. You may have 100 conversions per second, 200 conversions per second, 400 conversions per second. So according to requirement, you can select any speed for conversion. Maximum shielding load is up to 400 picofarad. It operates on 3.3 volt. Interface is I2C, and there are 4 channels. So some applications I already discussed. In fact, I discussed 3 applications of same FDC 1004. One application is fuel level measurement. Second application I discussed was soil moisture measurement. There you require different type of sensor construction. And third application I discussed is moisture measurement in material, and I showed 3 different videos to you. So this is the pinout diagram. There are total 10 pins. CN1, CN2, CN3, CN4 are 4 input channels where you are supposed to connect your capacitive sensor. Same IC can also be used to design touchpad. So there are plenty of operations possible with FDC 1004. There are 2 shielding pins. One shielding pin, SHLD1, is used for all 4 channels when FDC 1004 is configured for single-ended measurement. But if it is configured for differential capacitance measurement, both shielding pins are used. There are 2 pins for serial clock serial data, that is for I2C bus interfacing, VDD pin and ground pin. So let me quickly recap this. In single-ended operation, we can connect 4 different sensors, 4 different capacitive sensors to 4 different channels. In single-ended operation, SHLD2 pin is not used, it is floating. It should not be connected to anywhere. So SHLD1 pin is to be used as shield for all 4 channels. You will see here dotted line shows shield, and shield of all 4 channels is shorted together. So SHLD1 pin is the shielding pin, and it must be connected to shield of all 4 cables. SHLD2 pin remains floating. But in differential mode operation, we can measure capacitance connected between two channels. That is, you connect capacitive sensor in between Cin1 and Cin2, and difference of that capacitance will be measured. So in differential mode operation, shield 1 must be connected to shield of channel 1 and channel 2, and shield 2 must be connected to shield of channel 3 and channel 4. So here we can connect only two sensors. Although you can connect four sensors, but remember, difference between capacitance on channel 1 and channel 2 is measured in differential mode. Similarly, difference between capacitance on channel 3 and channel 4 is measured. So ultimately, two measurements are possible in differential mode operation. And the application which I demonstrated so far, I use single-ended operation. So today's my discussion will be with respect to single-ended operation. However, if you understand single-ended operation in detail, very easily you can modify code for differential mode operation. I2C protocol. Its full form is Inter-Integrated Circuit Protocol. It is also called I2C protocol. In I2C protocol, there is at least one master. Multiple masters are also possible. That is called multi-master mode. So there is at least one master and multiple slave devices. Slave devices cannot initiate any kind of write or read operation. Master has to initiate read or write operation. Output of this I2C bus is open drain, so it requires pull-up register. Without pull-up register, we cannot implement I2C protocol. So pull-up registers are must. So pull-up register value is usually 10K, and it is connected to VCC. So VCC can be 3.3 volt or 5 volt. So in 7-bit addressing mode of I2C protocol, we can connect 2 raised to 7 devices in 7-bit addressing mode. This list already showed to you examples of I2C peripheral devices available in the market. Pressure sensor, air temperature sensor, that is MLX 90614, SHS3X temperature and humidity sensor. So different peripheral devices are available in the market which are used for sensing some physical parameters. And those peripheral devices can be interfaced with microcontroller using only I2C protocol. Now we'll understand first of all hardware available on chip in PIC microcontroller for implementation of this I2C protocol. So in PIC microcontroller, there is on chip MSSP module. MSSP stands for Master Synchronous Serial Port. I repeat, MSSP stands for Master Synchronous Serial Port. So using this MSSP module, it is possible to implement two different types of protocols. One is SPI protocol. SPI protocol is Synchronous Serial Communication Protocol. And second protocol is I2C protocol. So I am going to discuss only about I2C protocol. I am not going to discuss SPI protocol. So this MSSP module is serial interface. It is possible to implement two different protocols using MSSP module. Number one, SPI protocol, serial peripheral interface protocol, and second is I2C protocol. So I already discussed here. MSSP module implements the standard mode specifications as well as 7-bit and 10-bit addressing modes for I2C protocol. So I2C protocol, there are two addressing modes, 7-bit address mode and 10-bit address mode. In today's session, I am going to talk about implementation of I2C protocol using 7-bit addressing mode. That is slave device. Most of the slave devices have 7-bit address. So we'll discuss implementation of I2C protocol using 7-bit addressing mode. For implementation of I2C protocol, there are two hardware pins available in PIC microcontroller. Names of these pins are serial clock and serial data. The serial clock pin is multiplexed with RC3 pin of microcontroller. RC3 is RC3 port pin. So serial clock pin of I2C hardware is multiplexed with RC3 pin. Another pin is serial data. The serial data pin is bidirectional because in I2C protocol, data flows from master to slave and from slave to master. So there is two-way data transmission. This SDA pin is multiplexed with RC4 pin of port C. This RC4 pin is also used for this RC3 pin is used for both SPI protocol as well as I2C protocol. Now we'll discuss control registers associated with MSSP module. This MSSP module has 6 registers for I2C operation. Total 6 registers are there. We'll understand one by one each register. There is status register called SSP stat. So with the help of this status register, we can check different conditions like whether SSP buffer register is full, whether it is empty. So other such conditions we can check through the status register. Then there are two control registers, SSP con1, SSP con2. So we'll understand each and every SFR in detail associated with MSSP module. So just understand first of all what are the names of these SFRs. So SSP stat, we have SSP con1 register, SSP con2. Con means control register. So with the help of this SSP con1 and SSP con2, we can control functionality of the I2C protocol. Then we have serial receive transmit buffer register. In transmitting mode, if you want to transmit data to the slave device through program, it is necessary to write data into this SSP buffer register. It is 8-bit register. Buff means buffer register. Synchronous serial port buffer register, full form. Then shift register. When we write data to the SSP buffer register, at the same time it is also written to SSPSR, synchronous serial port shift register. Data is loaded parallel into SSPSR register, and in transmitting mode, data is shifted out 1 bit at a time onto the serial data pin. So this register is not directly accessible in program. This register is not directly accessible. Then there is another register called MSSP address register. When microcontroller is used as slave device, then this register is used to save slave address of the microcontroller, and we can assign any slave address. When microcontroller is used as slave device, slave requires 7-bit address in 7-bit addressing mode. So that address is saved in SSP add register. When microcontroller is configured as master, then this SSP add register is used to save value required for baud rate generator. In serial communication, there is one term called baud rate. It is the rate at which bits are transmitted to other device. So in master mode of operation, SSP add register is used for defining the baud rate for transmission of data. So we'll understand each and every register in detail. So SSP add register holds slave device address when MSSP module is configured in I2C slave mode. And when MSSP is configured in master mode, the lower 7 bits of SSP add act as a baud rate generator. And we are going to use MSSP module in master mode. So our microcontroller will be in master mode of operation, and FDC 1004 will be in slave mode of operation. For microcontroller, it is possible to change slave address if it is used as slave device. But for peripheral devices which are sold in the market, there we cannot change address of the slave device. And address of the slave device is given in the data sheet. So we must go through the data sheet of the device that we have selected for implementation of I2C protocol. And that slave device address is required while writing the code. Now this in receive operation, SSPSR, that is shift register, and SSP buffer register together create a double buffer receiver. And whenever we write data to the SSP buffer register, the data in the SSP buffer register is usually simultaneously returned to SSPSR register. And whenever we write data to the SSP buffer register, there is one flag bit called buffer full. So whenever data is returned to the SSP buffer register, buffer flag bit is set. That indicates that buffer is full, and transmission will begin after some time. Once all 8 bits in the SSPSR registers are shifted out, that is transmitted to the slave device, this buffer flag register is automatically cleared. So whenever buffer flag bit is 0, it indicates that SSP buffer register is available for write operation. So when SSPSR receives a complete byte in receiving mode, see SSPSR register is used for both transmission and reception. In transmission mode, data is shifted out of this register. In receiving mode, data is shifted in. And when SSPSR receives complete byte consists of 8 bits. It is transferred to SS buffer register and flag bit is set. So SSPSR register is used in both transmission as well as reception. During transmission, SSP buffer is not double buffered, but in reception it is double buffered. So in transmission, SSP buffer register is not double buffered. A write to SSP buffer will write to both SSP buffer and SSPSR, as I already mentioned. Another important point with regard to I2C mode is, in I2C mode, serial clock pin, SCL is serial clock pin, SDA is serial data pin, become open drain. As these pins are open drain, we require external pull-up register. Otherwise, circuit will be incomplete. SCL and SDA pin must be configured through trace register. In fact, even if you configure for input or output operation, this SDA pin is bidirectional. So depending upon whether data is transmitted out or shifted in, MSSP module automatically manipulates this pin for input or output functionality. So in master mode, the SCL and SDA lines are manipulated by MSSP hardware. So there is separate MSSP module available in PIC microcontroller. Let me revise once again. This is the block diagram of MSSP module for I2C mode. In SPI mode, functionality is different. So I will discuss this block diagram. The two hardware pins which are used for implementation of I2C protocol are shown here: RC3 pin and RC4 pin. RC4 pin is multiplex with SDA, serial data transmit, and RC3 pin is used for serial clock. So on one line, clock is transmitted serially, and another line, data is transmitted in both directions. But please remember, in I2C mode, slave device cannot initiate read or write operation. It is the master who initiates read and write operations. So there is internal data bus shown here, and you see here there are buffers here, read and write operation, and there is SSP buffer register. So during transmission mode, we must write 8-bit data into this SSP buffer register. I repeat, during transmission mode, for example, if master want to write 8-bit data to slave device, then through software program, that 8-bit data must be returned to SSP buffer register. So whenever we perform write operation to SSP buffer register, parallelly same data is returned to SSP SR register. SSP SR means shift register, and you will see when data is shifted out, this buffer is used here. So MSB is shifted first on this data pin. In the transmitting mode, MSB is shifted first, and when all 8 bits are shifted out, this buffer register is free to accept another byte. This match detect register is used for when MSSP module is used for slave operation. So in master mode operation, this match detect operation is not done. Then there is another SSP address register. In master mode, this SSP address register is used for generating the proper baud rate. We'll see how to use that register. In this I2C protocol, there are start bits and stop bits. So there is a circuit in MSSP module to detect start of data transmission on I2C bus and end of the I2C protocol. So this is block diagram of MSSP module for I2C mode. Now let me show you start and stop condition in I2C protocol. I also want to discuss this timing diagram. This is the timing diagram of I2C protocol. So my discussion will be with respect to this timing diagram, and then we'll discuss C code for implementation of this I2C protocol. And for our case study, peripheral devices FDC 1004. So whether we write data to the slave device or we read data from the slave device using I2C protocol, the start condition is always initiated by master. So we even for read operation, start condition is initiated by master. And how is start condition initiated? To initiate, for example, we'll discuss this write frame we'll discuss first of all, and then we'll go for read frame. Write frame is used for writing data to the slave device, and read frame is used for reading data from the slave device. So we'll discuss both frames. So we transmit 8 bits, but there is one start bit and another bit is acknowledgement bit. So altogether there are 9 bits. So serial clock line is shown here and there is serial data line. So whenever start condition is initiated, maybe for write or read operation, MSSP module or I2C module in PIC microcontroller pulls down SDA pin. Look at here, SDA pin first of all, it is pulled down to logic 0. And this is beginning of this I2C protocol. So all slave devices connected to the I2C bus, all the slave devices have SD and SCL pins. Those pins are tied to SD and SCL line. So all slave devices share common SD and SCL bus. So all slave devices continuously monitor status of this SDA line. When SDA line is at logic 1, that means bus is free. There is no transmission on the data bus. But when this line is pulled down by master, all slave devices understand that master want to write or read data from one particular slave device on the data bus. So all slave devices, they initially receive 8 bits from the master, and master is supposed to transmit first of all address bit and read write bit. In 7-bit addressing mode, 7 bits are used for address and last 8 bit is used to denote whether next cycle is for read or write operation. Total 8 bits are transmitted. Out of 8 bits, first 7 bits denote address of the slave device, and last bit denotes whether in the next cycle master want to write data into slave device or read data from the slave device. So that is indicated by this RW bit. So in this figure, I have shown this condition. This condition is start condition means this SDA pin is pulled down by MSSP module, and after some time this SCL pin is pulled down, and then actual transmission begins. In multi-master mode, there is possibility that multiple master may try to transmit data simultaneously. In that case, there is possibility of collision, because when 2 or 3 master they start transmission simultaneously, definitely data transmitted by multiple masters will combine, and what will happen? There will be errors. Logic 1 may convert into logic 0 or something like that. So data may be erroneous. So this condition is called collision. And in MSSP module, it is possible to detect such kind of collision. And there is one separate flag bit for it. Now in our case, we are using only one master. So there is no question of collision. So collision detection is also possible. Stop condition. In stop condition, what happens is that serial clock pin first of all goes high, and then after that serial data pin goes high. So this is the stop condition. I have used another figure here to mention what is start condition and what is stop condition. Look at here. When uh, start condition is initiated on I2C bus, the serial data pin is pulled down first, it goes low, and after some time clock signal goes low. So this portion indicates here start condition on I2C bus. Now another very important thing, whenever master initiates write or read operation, first byte must be address byte. So master must first of all transmit address byte along with one last bit for read or write operation purpose. So first byte is always address byte, because there may be multiple slave devices connected to the I2C bus. So slave device must understand whether that particular slave device is selected for read or write operation. There may be multiple devices. So master must select only one slave device at a time, and there should not be multiple slave devices having same slave address. Otherwise, that may again create problem. So in this protocol, it is assumed that different slave devices have different slave address. So whether master want to write data to the slave device or read data to the slave device, master must first of all transmit address byte, and then subsequent operations can be done. So for better explaining this protocol, I have prepared one document. Let me share with you. And this document, I will make it available to you on Google Drive. So interfacing of FDC1004 to PIC18F4520 microcontroller using I2C protocol. So this block diagram we already discussed. Now what I want to discuss is here, this MCU device here is PIC18F4520. This is our MCU device. This FDC1004 must be operated on 3.3 volt. So VDD pin must be connected to 3.3 volt. I am operating PIC microcontroller on 5 volt. So that's why I have written here. So I am not operating it on 3.3 volt. Now you may think that here that there may be mismatch in logic levels. There is no problem. We can connect these pull-up registers to 5 volt. So I have practically implemented this without any problem. So I have connected these pull-up registers to 5 volt instead of 3.3 volt, and it is working fine. On data pins, we can have higher logic levels without any problem. So I am using here 10K pull-up registers, and this MCU is nothing but PIC18F4520, and it has on-chip I2C model. So SCL pin of FDC1004 is to be connected to SCL pin of PIC microcontroller, and SDA pin must be connected to SDA pin of PIC microcontroller. So this is the simple circuit diagram. Now I have shown here this same block diagram which I have taken from the PPT, but one important thing I have highlighted here. Here 3 slave devices are shown in this block diagram. This I2C master is nothing but PIC18F4520, and these are serial clock and serial data lines. Let us assume that our slave 1 is FDC1004. So in the datasheet of FDC1004, its 7-bit address is given for implementation of I2C protocol. Let me open. This is the datasheet of FDC1004 IC, and in this datasheet, this 7-bit address for FDC1004 is given, and this address, B stands for your binary. Meaning of B is binary. So binary, and MSB bit is first shown here 10100000. Data transmission from master is always 8-bit. So we must combine this 7-bit along with read-write bit. So whenever we transmit address, we must insert one more bit, and that bit is nothing but R/W bar bit. So when this 8-bit is logic 1, it means that in next cycle, master will read data from the slave device, and W bar means write. When this 8-bit along with this address is logic 0, it means that in next cycle, master will perform write operation to the slave device. So this 8-bit indicates whether next cycle is for read operation or write operation. So that is the meaning of last 8-bit. So total 8 bits are transmitted at a time. Out of each 8 bits, 7 bits are address bits, and last bit is indication of read or write operation in the next cycle. So I hope all of you understood address of the FDC 1004. This address we can get it from data sheet. So when last bit is 0, look at here, when 8 bit for read write operation, when this bit is 0, it means that in next cycle there will be write operation to the slave device. So when you combine 7 bits and last bit logic 0, what we get here? 0x A0. And in the next cycle, if you want to perform write operation, read operation, then this last bit will be here, logic 1. So what is our code word here? 0xA1. So when master initiates write frame operation, of course, address must be transmitted first. And in the next cycle, if you want to perform write operation on the master on the slave device, then you must transmit 0xA0. And if you want to perform read operation in next cycle, then you must transmit 0xA1. Now, first of all, I will discuss I2C write frame. And this operation I am going to discuss with respect to FDC 1004. So, number of write operations or read operation may be less in other peripheral devices. So, I have not explored other peripheral devices. So, my discussion is with regard to FDC 1004. However, if you understand this protocol thoroughly for FDC 1004 with little modification, you can apply same code for interfacing of other peripheral devices. So, small modifications will be required. And these modifications you can do very easily if you understand code written for FDC 1004. So, I have shown here I2C write frame I am going to discuss first. So, before I discuss this, let me once again remind you, in FDC 1004, there are on-chip 16-bit registers. These are the registers, and these registers are used for different purposes, like this MES1 MSB, MES1 LSB. This first 8 registers here, all registers are 16 bits. Let me once again remind you, all on-chip registers are 16 bit except pointer. Pointer is 8 bit. Pointer register is 8 bit, and remaining all registers are 16 bit. Pointer register is 8 bit, and rest of the registers are 16 bit. Now, what is the purpose of pointer? Whenever we perform read or write operation, these operations are with respect to pointer. Say, for example, if you are written 0x00 in this pointer, if you have written or if you have loaded pointer with 0x00 through I2C write operation, during next time when you perform write operation, then that write operation will be done with respect to MES1 MSB register. Remember, if you have loaded pointer with 0x00 and if you perform read operation from slave device, then master will read data from the register pointed by pointer, and pointer is now pointing to MES1 MSB register if it is loaded with 0x00. So, depending upon which register you want to read or write, you must load this pointer register. Suppose you want to write data to config MES1 register, then first of all you must load pointer with 0x08 value, and after that in next cycle you can write data to the config MES1 register. Remember, config MES1 register is 16 bit, so you must write 2 times. Whenever you write first time, data is written to MSB part of config MES1 register, and second write operation is on lower part of config MES1 register. So, config MES1 register is 16 bit. At a time we can write data to 8 bits. So, pointer register is really important. Whenever you want to perform read or write operation to specific register, that pointer must be loaded with address of that register. So, for MES1 MSB register, address is 0x00, pointer address. For second register, address is 0x01. For third register, address is 0x02, and so on. So, first 8 registers are used for saving 24-bit result. Remember, these two registers together becomes 32-bit. and our result is 24 bit. So first 16 MSB bits are saved in MES1 MSB register, and remaining 8 bits are saved in upper 8 positions of MES1 LSB register, and last 8 bits of MES1 LSB registers are not implemented. Two registers together becomes 32 bit. Result is 24 bit. So MES1 MSB register is fully used for saving the result, whereas 8 bits of MES1 LSB register is used for saving last 8 bits of the result. So in MES1 LSB register, total there are 16 bits, 8 bit and remaining 8 bit. So these last 8 bits are unimplemented in this MES1 LSB register. So when we perform read operation for fetching the conversion result, we must ignore this last 8 bits of second register. There is config register. For channel 1, config register for measurement is addressed by this pointer value 0808. For second channel MES2, for third channel MES3, for fourth channel MES4, and so on. This column represents reset value. So whenever FDC 1004 is reset, these SFRs are loaded with default values, and these default values are shown in this column. Like this config MES1 register is loaded with 0x1C00. This is the hexadecimal value. Then there are offset calibration register. Using offset calibration register, we can remove offset capacitance up to 16 picofarad, and with CapDAC module, we can remove offset capacitance up to 100 picofarad. So this CapDAC module we can enable or disable with config MES1 bits. I am going to discuss, don't worry. There are separate 4 SFRs for gain calibration purpose, and with, as I already mentioned, there is amplifier on chip for amplifying the analog signal proportional to capacitance value. This analog value is not directly accessible to us. So output of there is one capacitance to analog voltage conversion module in on-chip FDC. The analog signal is further amplified by on-chip amplifier, and gain of that amplifier is controllable through this SFR. So this gain we can control over a range of 0 to 4. So minimum gain is 0, maximum gain is 4. Of course, there is predefined gain use in the application, and purpose of this gain calibration is to minimize some external effect that affects the gain. Now let me tell you, I have used default values for offset calibration as well as gain calibration. I have not used. However, the code which I am going to share today to you, if you can build a capacitive sensor, you can do some kind of experimentation with this offset cal registers as well as gain cal C in registers. So this I have not modified. I have used default values. These 8 registers. 4 registers are 4 channels, and remaining gain calibration registers are 4 channels. There is one register called FDC CONF. That is FDC configuration register. This register is 16 bit, and it is related to all 4 channels. FDC CONF register is related to all 4 channels together. So don't worry, I will discuss now each and every register in detail. So first of all, let me discuss this block diagram. So I2C write frame. So whenever you start writing data to the slave device, your first byte must contain 7-bit slave address. So this arrow indicates here direction of data flow. So this data is flowing from master towards slave device. So master will write first byte containing 7-bit slave address, and 8-bit in that data is indication of whether next operation is read or write. Now in write frame, our next operation is write operation. We want to write data to the slave device. So therefore 8-bit must be 0, and we already know what is the address of the slave device. So address of slave device we already know. So combining given bits, this address will become 0x, hexadecimal value will become 0xA0. So last bit is indication of whether next cycle is read or write, and in our case it is write cycle. So first of all, slave address must be transmitted along with read write bit. All slave devices will receive it. One slave device may find address match. Now as we are transmitting 0xA0, so if FDC100 is connected on the I2C bus, this FDC1004 will find address match. And for next cycle, it will start responding back to the master. So let us look at this timing diagram. So this is write frame. So 7-bit serial bus address byte is transmitted. 8-bit is low, logic low. And this address bits can have any value. That's why this symbol is used here. Address bits may have any binary value, 0 or 1. But 8-bit must be 0 so that next write cycle will be initiated. And last bit here, 9th bit here, is acknowledgement given by slave device. The slave device which will find address match, that slave device will pull down this SDA pin. Usually after transmitting 8 bits, I2C hardware module will pull up this SDA pin to logic 1. And it is the responsibility of the slave device to pull down this pin in order to give acknowledgement. So acknowledgement is given by slave device by pulling down SDA line. So this is end of transmission of first 8 bytes, and it is always address plus read write bit. And in write frame, this read write bit is logic 0. Next write operation is with respect to only pointer for FDC1004. Next we must write to the pointer. Pointer is 8-bit. In FDC1004, pointer is 8-bit. I already discussed. So we must load pointer such that next write operations will be to the on-chip SFRs in FDC1004, which will be pointed by this pointer. So for example, if you want to write data to this config measurement 1 register, then pointer must be loaded with 0x08. Suppose we want to write data to config 1 MS register, then first of all, data must be written to pointer with value 0x08. So pointer must be loaded so that it points to the required register. So now here, if you want to perform write operation to config 1 register in subsequent cycles, then this data here must be 0x08. So now as FD is selected for write operation, because we have transmitted address of FDC1004. So FDC1004 will receive this 0x08 and it will be returned to 8-bit pointer register. As pointer contains 0x08 value, during next write operations, data will be returned to the on-chip registers in FDC1004 pointed by this 0x08 value. With this 0x08 value, pointer is now pointing to config measurement 1 register. So during next 2 cycles, master must write 16-bit data to slave device. However, transmission is always in bytes, 8-bit data. So first of all, master must write MSB part to the register on chip in FDC1004, which is pointed by 0x08. This pointer contains 0x08 value. So what is written here? First of all, MSB data MSB will be transmitted. In this data sheet, there is mistake. It is written from here. It is not from. Data is transmitted to slave device. So this is mistake in the data sheet. So master writes most 8 significant bits to the register in FDC1004 pointed by pointer. And pointer is loaded with, for example, 0x08. After transmitting MSB bits, next transmit remaining 8 bits because all registers are 16-bit which are pointed by 8-bit pointer. So whenever we perform write operation, especially with respect to registers, we must transmit 16 bits. However, after loading pointer register, we can we can end the I2C transmission. It is possible. But after loading pointer register, if you perform write operation, then that write operation will be done to the registers pointed by pointer register. So after that you transmit 16-bit data. First of all transmit 8 MSB bits followed by remaining 8 LSB bits. And after that initiate stop condition through program. So through program we must initiate stop condition, and then bus becomes free. I2C bus becomes free. And you will see that here each time when slave device receives complete 8 bits, it gives acknowledgement. And how is acknowledgement given? Slave device pulls down SDA pin after receiving 8 bits. So each and everything is discussed here. Start by master, acknowledgement by slave every time, acknowledgement by slave, and then stop by master. So this data transmission is terminated by master. There is one bit used for this purpose. So for writing data, there could be 2 cycles or 4 cycles. If you want to change only pointer value, then use only 2 cycles. And if you want to change pointer value as well as want to write data in on-chip registers, then 4 cycles are required. As I already mentioned here. In this timing diagram also it is shown. After loading the pointer register, we can terminate the I2C protocol without any problem. However, after loading pointer value, if you continue with data transmission, then next data will be written to the on-chip registers pointed by pointer register. So I have written here, next transmit 8-bit data to pointer register in FDC 1004. After that, you can terminate this data transmission, or you can go for transmission of another 2 bytes. So if you continue with another 2 bytes, then write MSB byte to SFR. SFR means special function register on chip FDC 104, pointed by pointer register. And after that, you are supposed to transmit remaining LSB byte. There is writing mistake here. It is LSB byte. So after transmitting MSB byte, write LSB byte to the SFR on chip FDC 1004, pointed by pointer, and then initiate stop condition. After transmitting LSB byte, initiate stop condition. Now I2C read frame. In I2C read frame, master initiates start condition on I2C bus, and even though it is read frame, master must first of all transmit slave address. So slave address must be transmitted. Slave address is 7 bit plus read write condition. In read frame also, second byte will be written to pointer register. So we must load pointer register with appropriate value so that it points to the required register for read operation in next cycles. So in read operation, first 2 cycles are write cycles. So first of all, we are transmitting 7-bit address, and last bit is logic 0, indicating that next cycle is write cycle. In the second cycle, 8 bits are again transmitted, and this 8-bit data is returned to the pointer register. That's what it is written. 8-bit data to pointer register in FDC 1004. Why this bit is 0 here? Because in next cycle we are going to load pointer register with required value so that it points to the SFRs needed for next read operations. Then third cycle. In the third cycle, we must write again 7-bit slave address. 7-bit slave address is again required. And we must write 8-bit equal to 1. So in our case, hexadecimal value will become 0xA1. First 7 bits in 0xA1 indicates slave address. It is same. But last bit is 1. If you write this in binary 10100001, first 7 bit indicates slave address and last bit indicates now next cycle is for read operation. So in cycle number 4, as our 8 bit is here 1, next operation is theta read from the slave device, and look at here direction of arrow. This arrow is pointing towards master device. So slave device will transmit serially data, and it will be received by master. Now master is in receiving mode and slave is in transmitting mode. But remember, read or write frames are initiated by master, not by slave. Now master requested slave device for read operation, and that's why slave device start transmitting serial data on this serial data pin, and it will be serially received by master in SSP SR register. There is serial shift register. So read 8-bit MSB byte from register in FDC 1004 pointed by pointer. Every time I am mentioning here pointer. So this 8-bit data will be read from slave device, which is pointed by pointer, and all registers are 16-bit. So first time what we get? MSB part of that register, and fifth cycle is again for read operation. Here read remaining 8 bits, that is LSB byte from register in FDC 1004 pointed by pointer, and then initiate stop condition on I2C bus. This stop condition is initiated through program. So all the conditions here, start condition, stop conditions, they are initiated through proper bits in the control registers associated with I2C module. This part I will discuss later. Now let me discuss this here. Some functions are there. In my C code, there are several functions. So first of all, understand purpose of these functions. How many functions are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Total 7 functions are there. I will first of all discuss what is purpose of this function. All these functions are user-defined functions. These are not library functions. I have written these functions for implementation of I2C protocol. And you know that protocol means proper sequence of operations. In protocol, you cannot modify the sequence. That's why it is called protocol. Protocol means predefined sequence of operations. So in whether it is networking protocol or other protocols, you are supposed to follow proper sequence. If this sequence is not followed, then that protocol cannot be implemented. So first function which I written is I2C underscore INIT. INIT stands for initialization. So I have given easy to remember name. INIT stands for initialization, and here I have shown argument. This number is 1 lakh. So it is indication of baud rate. 100 kilohertz is the baud rate. So 100 kilohertz is the baud rate, and it is passed as an argument to this function. So this function initializes I2C module and sets the baud rate. Second function is I2C start. So this function is used to initiate. This function is used to initiate read or write cycles. That is initiate start condition on the I2C bus. So this I2C function, I2C start function initiates I2C protocol. Next is I2C underscore write. As name indicates, it is used for writing data to the slave devices. So this data could be address as well. So it is used for writing data to slave devices. I2C wait. This function is used to check whether I2C bus is free or not. See, for example, if your data transmission is in progress, and if you attempt to write again to the buffer register, that may result in error. So this function ensures that data transmission is complete or not. If data transmission is complete and I2C bus is free, then and then only we can go for next operations. So purpose of this function is to check whether bus is free or not, whether whether data transmission or reception is under progress or not. So if data transmission is under progress, data reception is under progress, or bus is not free, then program remains here in this function until bus becomes free. I2C stop function, it is used to end I2C protocol. I2C repeated start. There are some slave devices which require repeated start. FDC 1004 can be used to read data using both functions, I2 repeated start as well as I2C start. So this function just I have included in the program. Even if you use it in place of I2C start, or even if you use it in combination, your program will work. So purpose of I2C repeated start I will discuss later point of time. And last function is I2C read function. It is used to read data from the slave device. So this function gives output data. That's why you will see here data is equal to some function name is written. So all other functions here, they do not return any value. This last function, which is used for reading the data from the slave device, it returns 8-bit data. Now we'll go to code. What I am doing is code is already written. I will discuss that code. So under source file, I am adding our C file written for I2C protocol. So I am adding existing item, and this is my file I2C new one. So this file is added here. This is the code file. So first part of the code is exactly similar to previous codes. That is configuration memory part, including of header file. We are also using here LCD display, same LCD display. I have even shot one video so that you can better understand how to do calibration. Crystal frequency is defined here. Our oscillation frequency, it is not in fact crystal frequency, it is variable. This variable we will use for subsequent calculations. We are using on-chip oscillator with 4 megahertz oscillation frequency. Enable and RS pins are used for LCD display. Enable means enable pin of LCD display is connected to RC2 pin. RS pin, register select pin of LCD is connected to RC1 pin. First functions are exactly similar to previous program, that is LCD string, LCD initialization code, LCD CMD, LCD data, delay MS, MS delay. These functions are exactly similar to previous programs. Now here new functions are I2C INIT. This function is not returning any value, so return value is void. And we are passing here argument. So that's why here argument is defined. And we are passing here constant value. Then there is I2C wait function. So what we have done here is we have first of all declared function prototypes. These functions are written in subsequent part of this file. So function prototypes are declared first. I2C wait, I2C start. Just now I have discussed. I2C repeated start, I2C stop, I2C write. This I2C read function returns value. So it is unsigned short. It can be unsigned char as well. Meaning is same. And one more delay function is used here, delay US. This function is again user defined function, and it generates very small amount of delay. And this delay is used in writing these different functions here. Now first function. This first function is I2C initialization, and this function receives data from the calling function, and this data is nothing but baud rate. It is 100 kilohertz. So this function receives baud rate from the calling function, and we are using 100 kilohertz baud rate. The FDC 1004 supports baud rate up to 400 kilohertz. So it supports 100 kilohertz, 200 kilohertz, and 400 kilohertz baud rate. So we'll use 100 kilohertz baud rate. So this baud rate is received in this variable C, and this variable C is used in loading the value in SSP address register. So I will discuss how it is calculated. Now what is first register here is SFR, SSP control register 1, and it is loaded with this number binary 00101000. Now what is the meaning of these bits? Let us go back to data sheet. SSP stat register we will discuss later. We will discuss first this SSP con 1 register. What I have done is, if you look at the binary number, third bit is 1 here, third bit, and after that fifth bit from left hand side. So this bit is 1, and this bit. If I indicate these two bits here, this bit is 1 and this bit is 1, and other bits are 0. So what is the meaning? In multi-master mode, this first bit indicates collision condition. W collision. COL stands for collision. So write collision detect bit. So whenever collision is detected, it is reflected in this bit, and it is in which mode? Master mode. Other bit is SSP OV. OV stands for overflow. Say for example, in receiving mode, data is serially received in shift register SSP SR. After receiving all bits, those 8 bits are loaded in SSP buffer register. If we do not read data from the SSP buffer register through program, and if shift register receives one more byte, then this bit will become 1. That's why it is called overflow bit. That is, 1 byte is already there in the buffer register. It is not read from the program, and another byte is received in shift register. So that indicate this condition is called overflow condition, and this overflow condition is indicated by this bit. When this bit is 1, overflow is occurred, and when this bit is 0, there is no overflow. Third bit is SSP enable bit. This bit must be enabled, otherwise this MSSP module will not be enabled for I2C operation. So this bit must be 1. Its meaning is given here. SSP, master synchronous serial port enable bit. Master synchronous MSSP module will be enabled or disabled with the help of this bit. When this bit is 1, MSSP module is enabled. However, whether you want to configure it for I2C protocol or SPI protocol, that is decided by other bits. Okay. Then last 4 bits. These last 4 bits are related to different configurations here. That is, when last 4 bits are 111, I2C slave mode is initiated. When last 4 bits are 1110, I2C slave mode 7-bit address. There are 2 modes, 10-bit address, 7-bit address. Even for our case, we have selected this. Last 4 bits are 1000. What we have selected here? I2C master mode, and baud rate is decided by SSP address register. But this clock is nothing but clock used for data transmission on I2C bus. So this clock signal which is used for data transmission on I2C bus depends upon last 7 bits in this SSP address register. Last 7 bits are used for defining the baud rate. Now what should be value of this SSP address register? It depends upon at what baud rate we want to transmit the data. Now in our code, what we have done is, first of all, understand these bits. In our case, in SSP con1 register, only SSP enable bit and SSP M3 bit is 1, and the rest of the bits are 0. So instead of hexadecimal number, I have loaded this in binary form. In hexadecimal, it becomes 0x0010 is 2, and 1000 is 8. In hexadecimal, it becomes 0x28. So in your program, it is up to you whether you want to use binary number format or hexadecimal number format. It is up to you. I can also write SSP con1 is equal to 0x28, meaning is same. So whether you load SSP con with binary number or hexadecimal number, it is same thing. I am clearing SSP con to register. I have not written 0x. 0x00 and decimal 0 is same thing. So SSP con to register, all bits will be cleared to 0. After that, SSP address register is used for defining the proper baud rate when I2C module is configured for master mode operation, and we have configured for 7-bit address mode. But with SSP address register, what we do? We generate proper baud rate. So this SSP address register must be loaded with proper number so that we get required baud rate. And this formula is given in the data sheet. This is the formula. This clock signal is nothing but baud rate for data transmission. Remember, in this data sheet, meaning of this clock is baud rate. So this baud rate is equal to F oscillator divided by 4 into SSP address plus 1. Now we must solve this equation so as to get proper number in SSP address register. So when you solve this equation for SSP address, I will write here in place of clock, I will write baud rate. So B is equal to F oscillator divided by 4 into SSP address register, it is 8 bit, plus 1. This is the equation. Now you solve this equation for SSP address value. So when you solve this equation for SSP address value, SSP address value will be plus 1 is equal to F oscillator by 4 into B. Okay, and this plus 1 we must shift to the right hand side of the equation. So SSP address register will have content equal to F oscillator divided by 4 into required baud rate, B is baud rate, minus 1. So this is the reason why I have written this equation in code. What is written here? STAL frequency is nothing but oscillator frequency, number 4 as it is, and this C is nothing but baud rate. In formula I have taken here B. So in my code, this C indicates required baud rate, minus 1. So this equation I have implemented in my C code in order to generate proper baud rate. Actually, it is baud rate counter value. We get here counter value. You can do one calculation. What is our F oscillator? F oscillator is 4 megahertz. 4 into 10 raised to 6. 4 into 100 kilohertz. 100 into 10 raised to 3. Minus 1. So you'll find that result of this operation is 9. In fact, it is counter. Total 9 clock pulses are required. Although this value gives 9, internally there is multiplier. With the help of that multiplier, proper timing is generated for clock signal. So 9 clock pulses will be generated, and if you calculate frequency of that clock signal, it will be 100 kilohertz. Then SSP status register is clear to 0. So this is I2C initialization function. These functions are very small. Only few codes are written in the each and every function. So I hope all of you understand how to initialize this protocol. So we have defined here SSP con1 register, and we have enabled MSSP module, and with the help of last 4 bits, we have configured master mode of operation with 7-bit addressing mode. Next is I2C wait, this function, and there is only one line. First instruction I have commented. Any one instruction you can use. Like in first instruction, I have done here ending operation. So if you get confused with ending operation, that's why I have directly checked same condition with polling only 1 bit. Now, what is the purpose of this instruction? So when you call this function, program waits in this function as long as there is data transmission in progress, there is data reception in progress, or bus is not free. So when bus is not free, data transmission is progress or data reception is progress. All these 3 conditions are simultaneously checked. So when these conditions are true, that is data transmission may be in progress, data reception may be in progress, or bus is not free, then program waits here. This is while loop. And when condition becomes false means bus is available for data transmission or reception, then this while loop is terminated. So this function checks whether bus is free for transmission or not. That is the purpose of this function. Now how it is checked and what is the meaning? So which bit I am checking here? R bit of SSP status register. I will continue for 3-4 minutes. I will complete this SSP status register, and then I will end the session. So SSP status register, it has R bit. Let us go to bit format of SSP status register. So in this SSP status register, I am checking this R/W bar bit. So this bit you can access by field name R or W. So in program, whether I put here R or W, it is same thing. Meaning is same. W must be capital. So it can be R bit or W bit. So what is the meaning of this RW bit? In master mode, we have configured it for master mode. I will so discuss only master mode of operation for PIC microcontroller. So when this bit is 1, when this RW bit is 1, it indicates that transmission is in progress. That is, data in shift register is not completely shifted out. So transmission is not complete, it is in progress. So when transmission is in progress, we cannot write data to the SSP buffer register as long as all 8 bits in shift registers are not shifted out. So this bit is indication of I2C module is busy in transmitting the current byte. So it is not free. So we must wait. There are other bits as well. This P bit is related to stop condition and S bit is related to start condition. So whenever we initiate the start condition, look at here, these are readable bits. We cannot modify them. But this bit indicates that whenever we initiate start condition, this S bit is set to 1. And after completion of cycle, it is automatically cleared in hardware. So this bit we cannot modify through program. It is automatically cleared in hardware. P bit is related to stop condition. So meaning is given here. P stop bit indicates that stop bit has been detected last. Stop bit was not detected last. S bit indicates that start bit has been detected last. Start bit was not detected last. That is the meaning. Last bit is buffer full. BF stands for buffer full flag bit. What is the meaning? In transmitting mode, SSP buffer register is full. That means when this bit is 1, you cannot write data to the SSP buffer register. It is already full. And when this bit is 0, SSP buffer register is empty. That means we can write data to the SSP buffer register. That is the meaning of buffer flag register. In receiving mode, meaning of this bit is like this. When this bit is 1 in receiving mode, SSP buffer register is full. And when this bit is 0, SSP buffer register is empty. So when we read data from the SSP buffer register, this bit is automatically cleared. So this bit is readable bit. This bit is automatically cleared in receiving mode whenever we read data from the SSP buffer register. That's the meaning. One more register let me complete and then we'll stop. So in this while loop condition, there is one more condition and there is one vertical sign. It indicates that OR operation. So first condition checks whether transmission is under progress or not. It checks whether transmission is under progress or not. And second condition we check here is with respect to SSP control 2 register, and we are checking only 2 bits here. So we are using here AND condition. So with the help of AND condition, we select only one particular 2 bits. What is our masking number? 0x0C. So we are performing bitwise ANDing of SSP con2 register with 0x0C. Let us understand this and then we'll stop. So SSP con2 register. So this is bit format of SSP con2 register, MSSP control register 2. What we have done is we have done ANDing with 0x0C. So this register is ANDed with 0x0C. So 0x0C. Hexadecimal 0 means first 4 bits are binary 0. And then C means 110. 1100. That is the meaning. Let me discuss each bit and then we'll discuss why I have taken masking variable as 0x0C. Last bit is SEN. SEN stands for, in master mode, SEN initiate start condition. So through program, we must set this bit to 1 to start to initiate condition on the I2C bus. So through program, we are supposed to set this bit to 1 so that I2C condition gets initiated. That is, it may be for read or write operation. This bit must be set to 1 to initiate start condition. So when this bit is set to 1 and bus is free, I2C module pulls down SDA pin to low indicating that I2C protocol is about to begin. Next bit is RACN. RACN stands for repeated start condition enable bit. So some peripheral devices required repeated start condition if you want to do multiple read or write operations. FDC protocol FDC 1004 works on both conditions, ACN as well as repeated start condition. Next is PN bit. This PN bit. What is the meaning of PN bit? Stop condition enable bit. So when this bit is 1, initiate stop condition on SDA and SCL pins, automatically cleared by hardware. 0 means stop condition is idle. Next important bit is RCN bit. Whenever we want to perform read operation with respect to slave device, this bit must be set to 1 through program. So RCN bit, receive enable bit, master mode, master can do it. So when this bit is 1, it enables receive mode, and when this bit is 0, receive mode is idle. That is the meaning. Now what we want to check is, in this program we checked transmit condition, that is whether transmission is under progress or not. So we must also check whether I2C module is receiving data or not, because same function will use for checking transmission under progress or reception under progress. So with the help of first condition, we check whether transmission is under progress or not. So when R bit of SSP stat bit, when R bit of SSP status register is 1, it indicates that transmission is under progress. When SSP con2 register simultaneously have these two bits 1, when simultaneously these two bits are 1, it means that reception is in under progress. Reception is under progress, and we should wait. We should wait. So these two bits will be automatically cleared when reception is complete. So we must wait as long as these two bits are 1. So what I am doing is, I am doing ending operation to check whether reception is under progress or not, whether reception is under progress or not. Only these two bits are important. Other bits are not important. So we must check only these two bits. So what I am doing is, I am doing ending operation. So this bit GCN bit may have any value. When you end GCN bit with 0, result of ending is 0. When you perform ending of ACK STAT bit with 0, the result is 0. Ending of ACK DT with 0, 0. ACK enable bit, result is 0. I am doing here bit by bit ending. When this SSP con2 register is ended with this 8 binary bits, what is the result? Result is whatever value RCN will have, will get that value here. If RCN is 0, we'll get 0 here. If RCN is 1, ending of RCN 1 value with 1 will become 1. And here we'll have PN value. And other bit will become 0 after bitwise logical ending. So what we get here, after bitwise logical ending, in the result, we'll have value of RCN and PN as it is. And if these two bits are simultaneously 1, it means that reception is under progress. We should wait. And exactly same thing is implemented in our program. I have done here logical ending with 0x0C, and when both bits are 1, overall result of this logical ending operation will be 1. And then it is odd with first condition. So whether transmission is under progress or reception is under progress, we must wait. So we must wait here. So whether you put here single bar or double bar, it will work. I am putting double bar is correct operation, because we are combining two conditions together. However, code works with also single bar. So I will keep it as it is. So this way we can check whether we can initiate next read or write operation. And for that, this I2C wait function is used. So I will end today's session here. Tomorrow I will continue with same topic, and tomorrow we'll complete entire code. We'll go for question answer session. There is a question from Rohit Mane. Why only 7-bit slave address? As I already mentioned, it is protocol. In protocol, standards are defined, and in standard there are two different addressing modes, 7-bit and 10-bit. As it is mentioned, meaning of protocol is standard sequence of operations. And in the standard of I2C protocol, there are two options given, 7-bit addressing mode and 10-bit addressing mode. So when you buy any peripheral device from the market, you must check whether its slave address is 7-bit or 10-bit, and accordingly you implement your code. So only 7-bit slave address is answer is related to your standard I2C protocol standard. And last 8-bit is already mentioned. Even though we transmit we cannot transmit 7-bit data. So whenever we transmit slave address, at the transmission time we transmit 8 bits. First 7 bits are slave address bits, and last bit indicates whether in next cycle we are going to perform read or write operation. This first question, SCL will be even pulled down after read write of SDA, or it will remain the same. See, on SCL line there is clock signal. It is not remaining constant. This is the SCL line. On SCL line, clock signal is transmitted, and this clock signal frequency we can define depending upon our requirement. Like in our case, it is 100 kilohertz. So 9 cycles of clock signal are transmitted at 100 kilohertz in our case. So this frequency can be increased, data transmission rate can be increased, and on each falling edge of the clock signal, data is sampled inside the slave device. Read write bit which is present at the end of 8 seems like larger in size as compared to other 7 bits. There is slight confusion, I think. What I told you, data transmission is always in 8 bits, data reception is always in 8 bits. Initially we must transmit address, and in 7-bit addressing mode we transmit 8 bits. So first master initiates the read or write frame. Whether we initiate read or write frame, first byte represents address plus RW bit. Purpose of RW bit in first byte is to tell slave devices having matching address whether master is going to perform read or write operation in next cycle. That is the purpose of RW bit. And 7-bit address is required to identify required slave device for read or write operation. So there may be multiple slave devices connected to the I2C bus. In order to select one particular slave device, address of the slave device must be transmitted, and we cannot transmit 7-bit data. We transmit only 8 bits. And in the subsequent cycles, after transmitting address plus read write bit, in subsequent transmissions also there is 8-bit data transmission or reception. But in the first write operation, data consists of 8 bits with 7-bit address and RW bit. I hope question is answered. How to generate 4 square waves of various frequency, and at the same time how to interface ADC to PIC. So if you want to interface ADC having I2C protocol, the code which I am discussing today, you can use. However, the ADCs which are available online, their on-chip SFRs will have different addresses. There will be different configuration registers. So you need to go through the datasheet of such ADC which is available in market, identify its slave address, study on-chip SFRs, and use them in your program. So for example, in this ADC, result will be saved in some kind of SFR in this external ADC. So you must know what is the address of that SFR. So just go through the datasheet of any peripheral device which can be implemented using I2C protocol. So you need to go through the datasheet of such peripheral device, understand pointer register, identify on-chip SFRs. just with little modification in code, you can make use of external ADCs and you can interface them using I2C protocol. How to generate 4 square waves of various frequencies? You can generate 4 square waves on 4 port pins just through software. Just make them on and off. Say for example, if you want to make square wave, if you want to generate square wave on 4 pins of PIC microcontroller, just make 4 pins on and off. That's it. And time duration between on and off you can decide with the help of timer. So you can generate 4 square waves parallelly. You decide which pins you want. So according to your requirement, you can generate square wave on any 4 port pins. For example, let us generate on RB0 pin. Will generate on 4 different pins: RB0, RB1, RB2, and RB3. So RB3, RB2, RB1, and RB0. 4 pins you have. First of all, configure 4 pins for output functionality. So your trace bit must be 0 for these 4 pins. Your port must be output port. Second thing, through program, write logic 1 on these port pins. Add delay. Then after that delay, write logic 0. Again, add delay. So what you will get is here square wave. You can even control duty cycle. So duty cycle also you can change, and you can also change frequency through program. There are 2 ways to generate this type of signal. One is using on-chip PWM. In PIC18A4520, there are 2 on-chip PWM modules available. So you can generate 2 PWM signals on 2 different pins. And there are some other PIC devices where on-chip 4 PWM modules are available. So you can generate this signal using on-chip PWM module or through software program. So both ways it is possible. How will you evaluate our performance for Power Award Top Performance of Internship? On coming 12th July, on 12th July, we are going to conduct first quiz. And after end of the program, on last day, we will conduct another quiz. So we will combine marks of quiz 1 and quiz 2, and we will identify top 3 scorers. So for top 3 scorers, cash prize as well as certificates will be given in hard copy, and for next 10 rankers will give certificates in hard copy. If in SSP Quant2 PN bit is 1, SSP Quant2, let me go back to PN. SSP Quant2. PN bit. See, whenever we initiate the operation, stop condition enable bit means the meaning is during reception, look at here, this is automatically cleared by hardware. And let me first of all show you this code, my code. I2C stop. What I am doing here, at the end of the write or read cycle, I am setting this bit to 1. And if it is already 1 and it is not initiated, see, during next cycle, this stop condition must be satisfied, and it requires a couple of cycles. And if you immediately start transmission, what will happen? There will be error. So tomorrow definitely you will understand, because it will take time to explain this condition. Already in my program, this subroutine I have not discussed. And in this I2C stop function, I am going to discuss this meaning of this PN bit. This PN bit is there in 2 subroutines, I2C wait function as well as I2C write function. In I2C wait function, we check What is the status of that bit? When status of that bit is 1, it means that earlier read operation is not complete. That is the meaning. Are we checking ACK sent by slave? It is possible to check. Yes, it is possible to check. In my code, I am not checking because after checking my code in hardware, I am getting proper result. But you can add this condition in your program. And this bit is already available in one of the SFR. So in one of the SFR, there is this is ACK enable bit, acknowledgement bit enable, and there is one separate bit, ACK stat. This ACK stat is acknowledge status bit. Acknowledgement was not received from slave. Acknowledgement was received from the slave. So with the help of this bit, we can check in our code. But in my code, I am not checking it because I am getting data from the slave device properly. Yes, it is possible to check in program. So we are not checking ACK status bit as I am getting data, but we can check in the code. All questions in chat box are over. Please type your questions. See, all resource material I am going to share. The PDF file which I use for discussion of this I2C protocol. Immediately after this session, I am going to upload on the Google Drive. What is the meaning of repeated start? Basically, in repeated start, in the timing diagram, there is small change. Very small change is there. There are some peripheral devices which require that kind of start. Whenever you want to perform multiple read or write operations in sequence, then some peripheral devices, they do not support with conventional start condition. And in the timing diagram, only small change small changes there in the timing diagram. And that change, let me open my file here. That change is only here. Like in conventional condition, here SCL line goes high and this SDL line goes high later on. In repeated start, reverse thing happens here. That is the only change. And some slave devices for multiple reader operation require this repeated start. FDC 1004 works on both condition, conventional start condition and this repeated start condition for multiple reader operation. You can use anyone. So in our case, we can use anyone. Why we need to use pointers? See, in FDC 1004 or in any peripheral device which can be interfaced using I2C protocol, there are always on-chip registers. And you need to select one particular register for read-write operation. And the only one way to select on-chip registers in peripheral device is by using pointer. Without pointer, you cannot select one particular register. That is the purpose of pointer. So this FDC 1004 IC has several on-chip registers. All these registers are 16-bit. In other peripheral devices, these registers may be 8-bit. It depends upon design of that peripheral device. So in FDC 1004, there are several on-chip registers. These registers are used for configuration purpose, for saving result, for gain calibration purpose, for offset adjustment purpose, and so on. So if you want to configure, you must write to these configuration registers. If you want to read the result, you must read the result from particular registers. So without pointer register, it is not possible to select one particular register for read or write operation. So that is the purpose of pointer register. Each and every peripheral device which can be interfaced to microcontroller using I2C protocol must have pointer registers. So pointer registers are always there. Yes, all the files which I am discussing here, especially PDF files, these files are possible to download. Only recorded sessions are not possible to download. Except recorded session, each and every file, code file, PDF file, you can download. Don't worry. So all the slave devices have pointer on chip pointer register, so that they points to the different registers used for configuration or data storage purpose. Any other question? And I suggest all the participants to download datasheet of FDC 1004 through Google Drive. We have already uploaded there. You also go through the datasheet. You also go through the code file. You also go through the PDF file which I have created for delivering this session. Implementation of FDC, this I2C protocol is little bit tough, but if you once you understand it, you can interface any peripheral device available in the market which supports I2C protocol. Any device you can interface. There are no more questions in the chat box. So let me close today's meeting here. Thank you so much for joining today's session. We'll meet tomorrow at 6 p.m. and we'll continue with same I2C protocol coding. Thank you so much.